do this. I can do this. Is it hot in here, Mrs. Bob? Why is it so hot in here? Ah, my hand is cramping, Mrs. Bob. Make it stop.
So let's talk about these damn Warriors, because early on in the season, everybody was hyping, well, not everybody, a lot of Warriors fans were hyping up this team to the absolute stratosphere, like this team was going to win the championship. I even got into some back and forths with some Warriors fans on Instagram who got so defensive when a lot of people brought up that this team is not going to be good enough to compete in a very tough West. And a lot of Warriors fans were calling me a hater, and they were all yelling out, oh, we're going to prove you wrong like we did 2022, which I'll get to that because that 2022 championship is getting milked to the freaking umpteenth degree, and it gets really tiresome and really annoying. And here's the thing, their best players are over the age of 30. Steph Curry will be 38 in 2026. Jimmy Butler will be 37 in 2026. Draymond Green will be 36 in 2026. And here's the thing, if you're building around those guys, you better surround them with young, hungry talent, or at least athletic guys that are still, that are about to hit 30. You know what I mean? Like, on my screen, y'all see right now, I have Miles Turner as their center and Malik Beasley as their starting two guard next to Steph. Which, honestly, I've said it in my offseason video, and I've told Warriors fans this online, that the Warriors would be much better if they added guys like Gary Trent Jr. and Miles Turner into their starting lineup, because Gary Trent Jr. can space the floor for Steph, and he can get buckets, albeit he's very streaky. I know he's very streaky. I saw him in the playoffs with Indiana where a couple games in that Pacers series, he looked really good. The rest, he was trash. And y'all obviously know how I feel about Miles Turner. I ranted about him in my series recap vids covering the Pacers, especially in that finals run. And I talked about Miles Turner on the Pacers in a couple of my offseason vids then as well. And even with their sets of issues, I guess, Gary Trent Jr. being very streaky and a little inconsistent on the defensive end, and Miles Turner not being the best rebounder out there, those guys would fit really well with this Warrior system. Same with Malik Beasley, who y'all also see on my screen. Miles Turner, he may not be the best rebounder, but he provides a lot with what Golden State needs. A big guy that could space the floor and can play really solid defense. Because Turner is a good defender, too. But they didn't get him, and they sell for Quentin Post, which is fine. He has the 5th best defensive rating, which, all right, I'll take it for what it is. He's pretty good, and he's kind of a reflection of Miles Turner, so maybe not. But even with that, a lot of people were blowing their horns, especially when they had a 4-1 start to the year, that this team was going to win the championship. And I was like, guys, pump the brakes. The Warriors are starting off really well. But here's the thing. They started off well last year, too. They went 12-3 to start off the year, and then their season went to a tailspin until they got Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline. And Jimmy, when he got on the Warriors, helped the Warriors to, like, what was it, an 18-3 record, which was impressive. That helped them gain the 7th seed, right? After they clinched it against the Memphis Grizzlies in the play-in tourney. And a lot of people were swearing that, oh, if Steph Curry played, they would have beaten the Minnesota Timberwolves, which I don't agree with that, but I do think Steph gives them at least another game or so where they do stand a chance to beat them. But I don't think they would have won that series if Steph was healthy. That's just my personal opinion. And we got to remember, yes, they won in 7 against Houston, but they nearly blew a 3-1 lead. I don't know how people gloss over that detail. And think about it like this, y'all. If Buddy Hield did not have the game he had against Houston, Golden State loses that game 100%. You know what I mean? Like, I may sound like a hater, but it's just the truth. You know what I mean? Because Steph Curry only had 22 points that game, and Jimmy Butler, 20 points. Draymond had 16, which is probably the most points I've ever seen him score in quite a while. And yes, I get it. Auxiliary players matter. Them making shots in playoff games do matter. But let's not act like the Warriors just dominated the Rockets. They technically were, I guess, because they did go up 3-1. But remember, a lot of the games in that series were really close. And again, they nearly blew a 3-1 lead. I don't know how people gloss over that detail, because if they blew that 3-1 lead, there would have been some uncomfortable talks about the Warriors. And as much as I wouldn't agree with them questioning Steph Curry's legacy, his legacy would be in question because it would be the second 3-1 lead he has blown in his career. That's just my personal opinion. Y'all don't have to agree with it. That's fine. But again, if Buddy Hield did not have that game 7 where he scored 33 points and he looked like the best shooter of all time, the Warriors lose that series. And again, he maxed out what he could do, which is partially the reason why he struggled when it mattered most in that Minnesota series. And then the offseason rolls around. Their roster really didn't get better. Okay, yeah, they got DeAnthony Melton back. They got Al Horford. They got Seth Curry. But these are guys that are not really dynamic changing players, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, and that's not me saying Melton, Al, or Seth are not good players, because they are. But for people to act like these guys are the end all be all for, oh, the Warriors are going to win a championship with those guys as your role players, you're thinking too far ahead at that point. And on top of that, the Jonathan Kuminga issue has never really been resolved. And you could argue that, okay, for as much as we talk about Buddy Hield's inconsistencies, All Pro Sports Talk said it best. As much as Buddy Hield is inconsistent, Jonathan Kuminga is equally as inconsistent. But I'm going to comment this on his video where he talks about Golden State. I think Kuminga is a different matter because, like he alluded to in his video, the coaching staff plays him and then they don't play him. They play him for like 15 minutes, he's not in for the rest of the game. And you could attribute his inconsistencies with the lack of trust between him and the coaching staff. And I feel like that fallout is unresolvable per se. And I think that relationship is far from fixing. Because I can argue that the Warriors hurt Kuminga's confidence by simply not playing him. Yes, he is inconsistent. But we got to remember, Golden State never resolved that situation or did anything to alleviate the tension between Kuminga and the front office, potentially, and definitely the coaching staff. So nothing was done, and then at the last minute, when it came down to the final weeks of the offseason, all of a sudden they gave Kuminga a contract, and then they signed these old guys. And here's the thing on why the Warriors are not as competitive as people promised that they would be. They're old! Now, before I continue, yes, I am aware that they did beat the Phoenix Suns last night, but the problems are still there. Their main core players are old. Al Horford is 40. The 3 main stars on the team are over the age of 35. So it doesn't change that. You can't fix age. And yes, I understand that, okay, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, and Draymond Green are still dogs, but like I always said, yeah, so is Old Yeller. And then he died. And this team has to rely on Steph Curry almost every single night for them to have a chance. I mean, yes, they won last night against Phoenix, but Steph had 28, 10, and 6. Jimmy Butler finally stepped up, even though he's been way too on and off this whole season because he always saves his body for the playoffs, which, all right, cool. Will Richard off the bench had 20, which I don't know why Golden State doesn't play him. It's kind of like the same problem the Lakers have right now with not playing athletic guys. And Steve Kerr is actually going to his bench. So, great job. But even with that, it's like you have to rely on Steph having really good to great games just to give yourself a chance. Because here's the thing. Back then, if Steph dropped 30 to 40 points, your team was done for the night. The game was over by the time it was the fourth quarter. Or if you did beat the Warriors when Steph dropped 40, it's going to be a close game. And right now, the roster is not good enough to win you games, even with Steph dropping 40. I mean, one of the previous games before the Suns win last night, I think it was against Portland, Steph had 48 points off of 12 made threes, which was incredible, but they still ended up losing that game. Now, here's something that jumped out to me, and I'm sure it may not shock some of y'all, but this is how bad or at least inconsistent the Warriors are, especially when Steph is off the floor. They're number 4 in defensive rating, according to StatMuse.com, which is really good, considering they're up there with a team like the Oklahoma State Thunder, who are the number 1 defensive team in the NBA. But on the offensive end, they are number 22. Yes, they are ranked 22nd. They're barely better than the Clippers, the Pelicans, and the Memphis Grizzlies, and they're worse than the Hornets, the Bucks, and the Chicago Bulls. And those 3 teams I just named that are better than the Warriors are in a tailspin right now. A couple of those teams because they're star players in trade rumors and they are injured right now. And the other one, their team just sucks. And let me get to a guy like Draymond Green. I understand that he is the heart and soul of that team. And I understand he's done a lot of great things for the Golden State Warriors throughout the years. I am aware of that. But a lot of people have been banging on the doors of, yo, let's have Draymond come off the bench because right now, Draymond is averaging 8, 6, and 5, which is typical Draymond numbers, right? But here's the thing. He's shooting 39.8% from the field 33% from 3. Last year, he was not that good, shooting 32%. But as far as overall efficiency goes, this is his worst season that he's had shooting the ball since the 2019-20 season, and he was the lone guy on that team because Steph and Klay Thompson at the time were dealing with injuries. And from the games I watched, yes, Draymond is still a stellar defender, but his offense is really bad. You know what I mean? Like, the guy just lost his shooting touch. Like, even though last year he was pretty bad, he wasn't this abysmally bad. You know what I mean? Like, I've watched a lot of Warriors games, at least from the highlights. Draymond is not good offensively. Good defender still, even at 35. But nowadays, you cannot just be good on one side of the ball and expect to survive. Because you are a cone offensively, and out there, it just feels like the Warriors are playing 4-on-5 half the time. And here's the thing about Draymond's offense. The guy is turnover prone. This year, Draymond is averaging 3.2 turnovers a game, which matches, obviously, his career high that he had in the 2015-16 season where they won 79 games, also averaging 3.2 turnovers a game. And speaking of turnovers, the Warriors are 29th in the league, according to TeamRankings.com, averaging 16.2 turnovers a game. That is worse than the LA Clippers, the Houston Rockets, the Washington Wizards, and the Charlotte Hornets, and it's only better than the Portland Trailblazers, who are number 30 with 17. For some context, y'all, the Boston Celtics without Jason Tatum are averaging 12 turnovers a game. OKC's averaging 12.5 turnovers a game. And half the time, those are live ball turnovers, which leads to easy runouts for a lot of these teams. Last night against Phoenix, even though they won, they committed 21 turnovers. I don't know how many of those were live ball, but still, that is a very high amount of turnovers for a team that wants to quote-unquote win the championship, or in the words of Draymond Green, that's going to win the championship. And here's the thing too, bro. One of the worst losses I've seen from this team this year was the fact that they lost to a Minnesota Timberwolves team without Anthony Edwards. And I actually got into some back and forths with some Warriors fans on the Warriors page because I love trolling them, I'll admit. Sorry, Warriors fans. It's all love at the end of the day. But someone said that, oh, you need to play Seth Curry and Will Richard. Which I'm just like, think about what you said. You needed to play Seth Curry and Will Richard to beat the Minnesota Timberwolves without Anthony Edwards. And one guy even told me that, oh, do you know how basketball works? You know, rotations, shot creation, minute management, and yada, yada, yada. Trying to sound like a damn prophet. Like he knows basketball, you know what I mean? But I even said that, yes, I know how basketball works. And the fact that you still needed those two to beat the Wolves without Anthony Edwards when you have Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green is absolutely crazy. You know what I mean? And if you needed those two to beat teams like that and the Portland Trailblazers without Drew Holiday and Scoot Henderson, maybe your team wasn't that good to begin with. And let's get to a couple other players, and I want to address the head coach before I let y'all go. Moses Moody has been okay this season. He's averaging 11 points a game, shooting 37.7% from 3. But this is his worst shooting season of his career. Last year, he shot 43.3%. 2023-24, he shot 46.2%. And 2022-23, he shot 47.6% from the field. And this is his best shooting season from 3. But look at the volume of attempts he's had. 37% off his 6 attempts, which is not bad, but my problem with him is my same problem with Buddy Hield. He's pretty inconsistent. There are games where Moses Moody will have 7 threes like he had against the New Orleans Pelicans, but more often than not, he's going to go 1 for 6, 3 of 10, or something like that. And then Buddy Hield, man. Buddy Hield is abhorrently inconsistent, right? The thing about him is that it's the same thing. He'll have a couple games where he'll have like 7 to 8 to 9 to 10 threes, where he looks like the best shooter in the NBA. The next 5 games, it doesn't look like he knows how to play basketball. You know what I'm saying? And watching Buddy Hield play makes me glad that the Lakers didn't pull the trigger when we were trying to trade Russell Westbrook, because we would have sent him to the Pacers for Buddy Hield and Miles Turner. I said the things I've said about Miles Turner, but Buddy Hield would have had the same problems or the same shooting inconsistencies or whatever the hell y'all want to call it with LeBron and AD and Luka and AR and LeBron. It would have been the same thing then. And here's the thing too. Why'd y'all think the Pacers traded him? because, you know, he ended up being dead weight, he ended up being expendable, and especially with the play of guys like Andrew Nembhard and Aaron Nesmith and Benedict Mathurin. If Buddy were that good, he would still be on the Pacers, and he would have been part of that finals run that they had last year. And let's move on to my man Carrot Top, Brandon Podziemski. That dude is probably the worst basketball player I've ever seen step on that floor since Robert Sacre. And I've watched a lot of scrub basketball players. Pods is just absolutely terrible. The guy has trouble handling the ball. He contributes to the Warriors' turnover problems. He is a cone on defense. And the thing is, the guy talks so much out of his ass, dog. Like, there was a quote, I think, before the season where he said that, he wants to be the next best Warrior when Steph retires. Yeah, that's not working out for him, ain't it, man? Like, Pods is just absolutely terrible. And, oh my goodness, just watching him just trying to, make plays or trying to, I don't know. The guy is just so frustrating to watch because it's like, yo, Pods, chill the hell out. And he, too, is a streaky shooter, which is also not making things better for me watching this dude step on the damn basketball court. The guy is just an absolutely terrible basketball player. And here's one last thing that I will address with y'all before I let y'all go. Steve Kerr, man, I have a lot of respect for the guy with what he's done with the Warriors throughout the years. But it's like his offense is so predictable now. His rotations make no sense at all. Like, why is he going to an outdated 4-guard lineups? Like, a lot of these games I watch, Moses Moody is the power forward, or Jimmy Butler is the power forward, and Draymond is the center. Steve Kerr, you know this is 2025. You can get away with it when you have guys like Andre Iguodala and Kevin Durant. You could get away with playing small ball back then. But because with the return of guys like Nikola Jokic, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, and all these other bigs, Pascal Siakam, and whoever the heck is the Pacers starting center, and then Joel Embiid's actually having a pretty decent year for what it's worth, even though he stays injured. When you have those guys out on the court, and then you add on to what DeAndre Ayton's doing for the Lakers and a guy like Neemias Queta is doing for the Suns, why are you playing small ball in an era where it's becoming so obsolete now? Steve Kerr's rotations are just so out of touch with reality in the 2025 NBA, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, this worked during the Hamptons 5 era. But nowadays, your roster's not good enough to play small ball. And if you do play small ball, guys like, I forgot to mention Karl-Anthony Towns and Mitch Robinson of the Knicks. These guys get decimated on the boards because of the fact that Steve Kerr goes small half the time. So his rotations make no sense, and a lot of Warriors fans are calling for his job. And plus, he loves playing Brandon Podziemski a lot more than guys like Pat Spencer and Will Richard, who are really good players. And yes, I did say, that thing where I said, if you needed Seth Curry and Will Richard to play against the Minnesota Timberwolves Ant. But still, I would take those two over guys like Brandon Podziemski and Buddy Hield. So, two things can't be true. All in all, man, I don't think the Warriors are going to get any better. And I don't think they're going to get Giannis at the trade deadline, even though a lot of Warriors fans would love him. And I wouldn't mind seeing a Steph Curry-Giannis duo. But the thing is, their trade package will not be good enough, in my opinion. If all they have to offer is like Kuminga, Podziemski, Buddy, and like a first-round pick or whatever the heck, the Bucks are hanging up that phone. And a lot of people want Klay Thompson back, and they're open to a Warriors reunion because the Bay is his home. That's not going to happen. And plus, Klay is not going to fix any of the problems that the Warriors have. Some people are wanting Chris Middleton on the Warriors. No. Middleton is a playoff scorer, yes, but he's also injury prone and he's also old too. He would be better on a team like the Denver Nuggets, and Klay would be better on a team like the Detroit Pistons. Like, I'm sorry, Warriors fans, you guys are not good. But what do you guys think? Do you guys agree with me or not? Do you guys think the Warriors are still good? They're better than the record suggests? Or do you guys think the Warriors are not going to get any better anytime soon? If I end up being wrong about this team, I'll make a follow-up video on how wrong I was. But until then, the Warriors are just bad. And low-key, I'm here for it. Whatever y'all thoughts are, please leave it in the comments below. And please like and subscribe to my channel. That's the end of this video. I'm X. Deuces.